Okay, everybody, good evening and welcome to the Finance and Personnel meeting for January 20th. And can we have some roll call help, Bill?
Alder Haniro,
Here.
Alder Lorman,
Here.
Alder Crow,
Here.
all members present.
All right, thank you. I'm accepting the minutes as submitted. Any updates or input from the committee?
I did not have anything.
I had a minor thing, but it's probably not necessary. Just that, yeah, it's okay.
It's grammatical?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's nothing big, nothing material.
correct. Very good. I'll accept the minutes as they've been drafted. Audit of, oh, Lisa, you have the
I have this.
audit of the bills.
We have no additions tonight.
All right, make a motion to accept the audit of the bills as submitted.
So wait, that's the unpaid invoice report. I don't have some of the
It's
copies.
the only one,
There are,
this is the only one I got.
did you take some from my mailbox or something?
No,
I brought what was in your mailbox.
Oh,
but I'll
okay.
take your copy of,
Well, this one's January 20th. I'm sorry, Bill, can you tell us which?
Yeah, it should be the one for January 20th.
Yeah.
Total is $600,076.
Okay. motion, accept them. I have a second.
And I will second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I will deliver that to you at the end, Bill. All right, agreements and contracts. First item up is an amendment to the agreement with Parkitecture Planning LLC for the firefighters park. ADA improvements in the amount of $3,764.
This is Haniro. I move to recommend that council approve amendment number 1 to the agreement with Parkitecture and Planning LLC for the firefighters park ADA improvements in an amount not to, or an amount of $3,764.
All right.
With pending city attorney review
We
and
have some
approval.
pending city attorney review on this? Okay. Do I have a second?
This is Crow. I'll second.
All righty.
I,
Go ahead.
I do have some questions on it. I noticed the amendment talks about firefighters park, but not Penny Klein Park. Was there anything involved? I thought the original agreement was with both parks. Just wanted to clarify that, or were there nothing to be done in Penny Klein Park?
Original agreement or the design portion did cover Penny Klein Park, and Firefighters Memorial Park with a, allocated budget and carryover, and in 2025, there was only enough to, that PRFC decided to move forward with the one project located at Firefighters Memorial Park for improvements where the soccer stadium is, so that one was the first.
Okay.
And they prioritized the soccer one with the soccer fields at Penny Klein, and the third of that design set that they put together was for the Adler.
Okay.
That's-
So the amendment is just for the firefighters Memorial Park.
The amendment is just for the firefighters.
Okay. And another question too, in the original agreement, I guess the question is, do anything in the amendment cover the same things that were included in the original agreement? And are we paying twice for the same thing?
So we, that's a good question and a good note. Thanks for paying attention there.
Just like you check that.
I have the microphone on.
I apologize. That's a good note. It was, in the, amendment to the agreement, there was also, the same language. I did, discuss this, just, an hour ago with Parkitecture and Planning, and we went through this project originated in 2022. So it's kind of gone through a few iterations, and, we looked at the funding and hours spent through the agreement right now, and it will cover the construction oversight. The original and current agreement is going to cover construction oversight for the firefighters Memorial Park. portion, and we don't need to move forward with the amendment that's on the tonight's agenda. So I know that's a little bit confusing. The construction, the amendment that's on the agenda for tonight doesn't need to move forward because after taking a look with the city attorney, those items doubled what was in the amendment was kind of doubling, or did double up, what was already in the original agreement.
So you're saying the motion that's on the table doesn't need to be
Doesn't need to
voted
happen.
on?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, because I was gonna ask a question similar to Alder Crow's,
That's
namely,
great.
we usually, for amendments to agreements, we usually have a document that says amendment number 1, and it makes it clear that nothing is changing except for this.
Right, yeah, when I looked at it, this afternoon, that's what I was recommending to be done, why I chimed in to have this subject to final city attorney approval. And the comments I made on my review is it did look like there was some substantial overlap, although arguably some of the bullet points that were in this amendment may not be, and so that's what I was trying to tease out, is whether there was really anything new here or additional work that we're specifically contracting for. And it sounds like after further discussion with Parkitecture, that really wasn't the intent to add any new work, in which case, it seems as though that.
They just need $3,764 more.
It's in the original, or they have enough, they have about $5,000 left. I just went through the entire agreement with them. I apologize for the confusion. We were set up to carry out the project for this spring, and so I was just trying to get everything.
So actually, one thing I do think, I think you probably, the staff recommendation is to vote against, unless it wasn't seconded, or withdraw the vote.
It was seconded.
Vote against your amendment, but I think what we do need to do is the current contract technically expires on February 1st.
So should I bring that back to a future meeting, or?
Well, I think that's part of what amendments we need here. I think, although that wasn't necessarily explicit in that agreement, I think that's implicit in the agreement that we were gonna be extending because there's, no point in amending a contract that expires in a
Right.
couple of weeks. So, I do think it would be appropriate in order to, just approve an amendment to the contract to extend it to, whatever we think.
I would say that it goes through June 30th, so I would say through August 30th, just to be.
I'm going to say August 30th to be sure that it goes to the conclusion of the project.
Okay, so we can let my motion just die. And I can make a substitute motion to extend the current agreement with Parkitecture and Planning LLC through, I'm gonna say August 31st. That's my motion.
all right, Laura, I'm gonna second that. Any questions? Thank you, Randall. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Next item, renewal of a fixed-based operator contract for the Middleton Municipal Airport with Maury Airplane Company. This is subject to city attorney approval. It has no fiscal impact. And Brian, if you would basically bring us up to speed historically why this is here and where we're at.
Sure, happy to. So, as you'll see from the cover memo and the agreement, the fixed base operator operations out at the municipal airport have been done on a 5-year contract cycle. The present operator, both presently and historically, has been Maury Airplane Company. The current contract that we have with them for FBO operations runs through December 31, 2026. But in that current contract, there is basically a renewal clause, meaning that the current contractee can ask to have the council or the city renew that agreement for additional 5 years. with written request and concurrence by the Middleton Area Development Corporation. Maury Airplane Company has requested that, but in the course of discussions with the Airport Commission, has talked about the potential of a longer term agreement beyond the 5 years. So speaking for Mr. Maury and his request, he would ask the Finance Committee and Finance Personnel Committee and Common Council to approve the 5-year extension and would be open to an additional 10-year extension on top of that if the Finance Committee and Council were to approve that. The agreement is drafted based upon the Airport Commission's recommendation, which includes that additional 10-year renewal on top of the 5-year agreement. It's up to the Finance Committee and Council to determine whether or not you want that in there, or if you want it just to remain the 5-year extension that exists in the current contract. That's a lot to kind of go through with just different dates. I'll pause for a moment and see if there are any questions or things you would like me to clarify.
Could you also add kind of the logic behind it being totally 15 years?
Sure. One of the items that was discussed is we've got other sort of aviation-based contracts out at the airport, specifically what's called the Specialized Aviation Services Operations, or SASO contract. There is another tenant at the airport that has that. There is a difference between fixed-based operator and SASO-related activities. There are some overlap in that. Generalization is that the FBO operations has responsibility for sale of fuel at the airport. I can pull up a quick diagram that can show the difference here. Actually, I can't because I'm not on Zoom. Let me just read off real quick what the differences are here. So for fixed-based operations, we've got airline fueling and de-icing, aircraft guidance, parking, tie-down, line service, aircraft maintenance, charter services, pilot and passenger services, flight planning and operation services, flight instruction, disabled aircraft assistance, providing place for operation for pilots, and aircraft rental. SASO is very similar to that, but they do not have the ability to sell fuel at the airport. That's the main activity of the FBO. The discussion at the Airport Commission in past months was because the SASO agreement was recently approved in 2024 from the city to be 15 years for that tenant. The Airport Commission discussed the possibility of extending the FBO contract to a similar 15-year timeframe to make them equal in length because they are similar in nature. But that ultimately would be a decision of the Finance Committee and City Council to determine whether or not to do that or to pursue another path.
And the other question I think that came up in regards to that was from I guess a BOA and FAA perspective, are we required by any means to have agreements, aligned in terms of terms and duration? Can we offer one business an agreement, say for 15 years, another business an agreement, say for 5 years? Or do we have to keep things kind of at the same level?
I can't speak specifically to the difference between the SASO and the FBO as it relates to that, but yes, the grant assurances do have language in there requiring that similar consideration and equity be provided among service providers at an airport that have contracts with an owner. So generally speaking, yes, but there might be some nuance in the details.
Great. Thank you. You did a much better job on that than I could.
Yeah, and I guess
Come
one other
close
thing to talk about, there's a lot of questions about some of the different dates in timelines that impact the airport. So I'll just give you a quick rundown on some of those because they do kind of globally impact different activities at the airport. So as I mentioned, presently there's a fixed base operator contract with Maury Airplane Company. That contract expires on December 31, 2026. In this current contract, there is that 5-year extension. So assuming that for a moment, that would get to 2031. The Middleton Area Development Corporation does have a land lease with the city for the operation of the terminal building. That current agreement expires at the end of 2028, but within that agreement, there is a 5-year, they can exercise an option to extend for additional 5 years. So we'll call that 2033 for the land lease for MADC as it relates to the terminal building. As I mentioned before, the SASO agreement for Capital Flight that runs from 2024 to 2039. And is separate but related conversation is the airport manager's contract, separate and distinct contract from the fixed base operator contract. That is presently it's set to expire in 2026. The current operator is Rich Morey with Morey Airplane Company. The Airport Commission is in discussions about an RFP process for that. That could tentatively, if it goes through, would be looking at, an operator running there until 2036. So just some examples.
Great, thanks. So in front of us is the, we can read it off one more time. So it's really kind of almost a two-part motion, but I'll throw the motion out there and then we'll see if we have any discussion. So the first motion would be recommended Common Council approval of a 5-year contract extension with Morey Airplane Company for fixed-based operator agreement. Now, the date to December 31st, 2026, isn't that 20?
Should be
31?
31.
So I'll just state that right now. And recommend council approve an additional 10-year extension at the end of the 5-year extension to match a total of 15 years, subject to approval by the Middleton Area Development Corporation if necessary. Do I have a second?
Can we substitute some very deliberate wording?
I guess what I'd like to do is, you want to substitute wording before we get to that point, or?
I do,
Or
because
open it up for, and
well-
then have discussion, then we can substitute it.
the substitute I want to make is to make it clear that that additional 10-year period is upon mutual agreement between the city and the operator, not automatic.
Correct.
I'm not sure that was clear in the wording.
Yep.
So,
Where would we like? recommend
well, if
city
the
council
chair
approval?
wouldn't mind, I'll make a substitute.
Sure.
I move to recommend that council approve the 5-year contract extension with Morey Airplane Company for fixed-based operator services to December 31st, 2031.
Yep.
With said contract extension, including an option to extend the agreement for an additional 10 years upon mutual agreement between the city and the operator, subject to approval of the Middleton Area Development Corporation, if necessary. That's my
Okay.
motion.
We have a second. I'll second it. Or Randall.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Now discussion.
I have some questions. On page 22 of the packet, it says operator agrees to pay to Middleton monthly during the term of this agreement, the sum of $0. Now, presumably this section is about rent. Yes?
That's
Brian?
my understanding. Yeah.
Okay. And I think it's a mistake for us not to capture the total cost of an FBO agreement in our budget. So I'm not saying we need to charge rent without providing offsetting compensation for the provider to pay that additional fee. But I just feel like for budgeting purposes, it's important that we understand the total cost because basically we're getting a discount that's not defined anywhere or documented anywhere for the work that Morey Airplane Company does. I believe it was Commissioner Randall brought this up at an airport commission meeting a while ago, just noting that we don't really know what the actual cost is, so that whenever the time comes, if it does, that we need to get a new FBO, we really don't know how much to be budgeting for. So
Mhm.
the net impact would still, it would be zero, but I feel like we should be capturing the cost of the full agreement, including what the operator pays for rent. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So just so I'm clear, we would figure out what the operator pays MADC for rent and then charge that. I'm just trying to figure out how we would arrive at the number for rent to incorporate into the calculations.
How do we
How do we-
record zero?
Well, the net would be zero. So if we were to,
I guess my question is, how do we put on a spreadsheet that the city is not capturing any fees beyond the rent that's paid to the city for the land
right, well,
by MADC?
just to throw out a number, if the cost of the land is 10,000 a year, that would be a new expenditure showing in the budget. And the Maury Airplane Company, if that's money coming to the city, new money coming to the city, then Maury Airplane Company, their management agreement or FBO agreement would have $10,000 more in compensation. So that the managers, the FBO is not paying more, but we are capturing through that number on the budget, this is what it costs to have an FBO.
Right now, it costs us nothing. So what you're saying is we want to we want to document that it costs the city nothing to have the FBO.
If it's too difficult to capture this, I won't push it, but I just note that this came up for discussion at the airport commission meeting, and I think it's a good idea to be clear what it is, what the total cost of the FBO work is. But let's move on. On page 23, and I'll note, I did look on the web to compare this version to the existing FBO agreement, and the one on the web must have been a double-sided thing that got scanned because only odd-numbered pages are showing. So please make sure that gets replaced with a complete copy. So what is the rationale for it's the fuel flowage discussion? And I was looking for the original because I don't know if this is in the original, but it says, as we see right here, operators shall pay Middleton a fuel flowage fee of 11 cents per gallon of aviation fuel sold, and Middleton reserves the right in its discretion to increase it, but by no more than 8 cents or a total of 19 cents per gallon by December 31st, 2031. I'm just wondering, is this in the original? And if not, where did it come from?
Would this not be updated as over time as these fees are adjusted?
Well, it sounds like we can't adjust it above a total of 19 cents, so an additional 8 cents.
It was coming from our current charge. When this original contract, the current one started back in 2021, was 8 cents. So our present fuel flowage fee is 11 cents. So I didn't want to change that absent any finance committee or council changing that. But if we, the council, want to change that, by all means, we can make that adjustment to give the city the right to increase that flowage fee.
So if I understand, then the original agreement does cite a fuel flowage fee.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Does it cap it?
The agreement from 2021 starts at 8 cents, can raise it by, and again, 2021 language, by no more than 5 cents or a total of 13 cents per gallon by December 31, 2026.
And the rationale for a cap is?
That I don't know.
Don't know. I can't support a cap. I can support language to indicate this is what the fee is now and that the city reserves the right.
How about like something that would, if there's a way we could understand market driven, I mean, that's what you do. We
Sure.
respond to what the market has to offer. But I don't know, from an aviation industry perspective, this would be a question for the airport manager. How does the aviation industry establish the price of fuel, just like a gas station? I don't know if there's
I'm fine. I totally understand market conditions. I'm
Yep.
not okay with us imposing a cap without some really good justification. And here's one of the reasons why.
Oh, I support that. I guess what I'm saying is I would look to our city attorney to help us just find appropriate
the
language
language?
for it.
Okay.
I mean,
Because I would like the city to be able to, I know we have an issue with unleaded fuel not being sold at the airport currently.
well, I want to keep us on
May I-
track. I don't want this to turn into a discussion of
I know.
the nuances of
I'm
unleaded versus
explaining-
leaded and the market driven. I think bottom line is if we can just put language in there that allows the city to look at the market and adjust pricing accordingly in consultation with, professionals, the industry, the marketplace, sounds good.
With respect, Mr. Chair, that's not what I'm getting at. I'm getting at, we would be it would be good for the city to have the option of incentivizing the purchase of unleaded fuel when it becomes available for those
I
aircraft
agree
that
with you,
can
but
use it.
I don't
And
think
if
we should
we-
incorporate the nuances of what the industry is gonna do with fuel into something like this. Fuel's fuel, so.
And that is why, if I could finish if I could hold on to the floor, that is why I would, I
I
could
agree.
support having language in here to indicate what the current fee is and giving the city the right in its discretion to increase the charges, period. Because that, if we describe market forces, then that rules out the possibility of us saying, hey, we want to not charge a fee at all on the unleaded fuel so that it will make it more price competitive with the low lead. That's what I'm saying. And if we build in wording, as the chair is suggesting, to talk about market forces, that hobbles us and we won't be able to, as a public policy action, incentivize the purchase of unleaded fuel. That's all I'm getting at. So I guess I'll move to amend the agreement to, if we can go back to page 23, please. If we could, let's see, my motion is to amend paragraph B, and I'll rely on staff to tell us what comes
What page
before
is
B.
that on the original
Right,
document?
you were right there.
Page
Oh,
22.
sorry. Yeah, 3B. To amend paragraph 3B to strike everything starting with by no more than 8 cents.
Condition of payment.
So it would read, Middleton reserves the right in its discretion to increase the charges provided herein from the current 11 cents per gallon, period. And not mentioning the date also makes it possible to not have to amend the agreement again should the operator choose to take the option of another 10 years.
Well, I'm not comfortable with having some kind of mechanism on there to
I'm sorry.
provide,
is-
guidance for it.
Is there a motion? I mean, is there a second to my motion or no?
I'll second it.
So we haven't, I'm just not comfortable with the language of leaving it uncapped. We have to have some language in there that, otherwise what happens is we just say, well, we just want to raise the price, or we just want to lower the price without really having any kind of boundaries on it.
Is there any other agreement that the city has where we impose a cap on ourselves?
Not that I'm aware of.
I think it's not good public policy to impose a cap. I'm not, I don't know if the chair thinks that there will be advocacy to raise the rates exorbitantly. This is simplifying the language, leaving it open to the possibility of subsidizing unleaded fuel, leaving it open to the possibility of charging different flowage fees on different types of fuel, which is what the state survey for 2025 or 2024 shows. I think the simpler, the better.
Well, establishing different flowage fees for different fuel doesn't really make things very simple. It actually complicates the process.
But it's not built into the agreement. It's just an option. It's not in the agreement.
So Brian, what do we have for draft language on this?
So that it would be,
Oops, you can put that back up there, Bill.
the paragraph as it's written shown on the screen, but striking the words no more than 8 cents or a total of 19 cents per gallon by December 2031 in connection with the operation and development to the airport, period. That last part would be struck.
And I tend to agree with Alderman Nairo, in terms of caps, kind of limiting what the city can do. I don't, realize anything can happen on council. I don't see council going to extremes to say, oh, we want, you know,
I guess what
the airport to just start charging more. We
well,
want them-
I guess all I want to
And-
articulate is that nationally, what's going on right now is in other parts of the country, public-run airports have had their boards, their governmental boards and committees impose extremely high fees on fuel to make it cost prohibitive to carry or sell a particular type of fuel. And what it resulted in was this going to federal court and the courts pushing back, and now basically, two of those airports are now actually going to be penalized for not the airports, but their governments are going to be penalized for their activity. And so what we have to understand is we don't want to play games with, the business out there.
Right.
I think what we need is to always just safely sell something at what the market is willing to pay. And if we're gonna play games by escalating something outside the market that's unreasonable, now we're getting ourselves stuck in the middle of really something political when, the businesses, if the airport is to stay in business and to sell fuel, we simply want the market to guide what is reasonable.
And I would tend to see council respecting that too.
Well, there's no
That-
guarantees. We don't know
there's no-
what the makeups of this council will be
True.
3 years from now,
True.
5 years from now.
Mr.
know,
Chair,
if-
I would
if-
note we are off, we are going
Well-
into national legal action, and that's not germane. And I would just say, if we are,
Well, I didn't bring
supporters of
the
the-
unleaded fuel discussion into it.
if we are I was justifying I was providing my rationale for keeping it simple. If we're supporters of the market, I would just note that caps are anathema to market. There are no caps in the marketplace.
I
I-
wouldn't bet my life on that.
Unless it's been captured. But I would ask to call the question on this particular amendment.
I'm just gonna look to Matt in terms of language. What are you comfortable with in the city's
Well, I mean-
perspective?
I'm asking for a vote on my amendment.
Yeah, the language is clear. What we end up doing with that, I guess there could be a lot of different things, but I don't think there's a question about what this proposed amendment, what that will do to the language and meaning of the agreement.
And I'm,
Request to call the question. Motion or amendment that's been moved and seconded. Chair, if you want to call the roll.
sure. Okay. Alder Narrow,
Yes.
myself, no. Crow,
Yes.
okay. Thanks, Brian.
And then I have one more amendment, and this one might take more time, but I noted that the Special Aviation Services, the SASO agreement, I remembered debating language regarding the voluntary noise abatement policy under the paragraph right to flight, which in the SASO agreement is paragraph 13 and in the FBO agreement is 15. Since we are interested in consistency, I would just ask that we amend paragraph 15 of the proposed FBO agreement to match paragraph 13 of the existing SASO agreement with Capital Flight. And the change would be to add after in the inherent operation of aircraft in the SASO agreement, there's a parenthetical that says, and recognizing Middleton has established and encourages compliance with its voluntary noise abatement policy, end parentheses. And then I believe it continues with identical wording, now known or hereafter used. So my motion is to make paragraph 15 right of flight in the proposed FBO agreement consistent with paragraph 13 of the existing Sasso with Capital Flight to add the parenthetical and recognizing Middleton has established and encourages compliance with its voluntary noise abatement policy, end parentheses. That's my motion.
Okay, Lorman will second that.
Thank you.
Any discussion or question?
No.
Okay. All those in favor to have paragraph 15 of the FBO contract match that of paragraph 13 of our existing SASO agreements, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Question, where would that language be added?
I'm sorry, right after inherent in the operation of aircraft. So before the comma, there's the parenthetical that goes
Okay,
in.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so now we've voted on our amendments. So back to us is, are we,
Think-
So that in front of you would be the motion for approval of the agreement as it's been amended.
Which would be from the substitute motion as amended.
okay. As stated by Brian, do I have we need a motion on that, I mean, a second on that.
You
No.
do have that.
I'm sorry.
That was the.
Okay, so now we'll vote on that. All those,
Question, I know it's been brought up too, is there a reason why we don't have to do a request for bids or for agreements like this?
That is at the option of the city council to do that. Again, each professional service is different, so there isn't necessarily a standard practice. It has been the city's past practice in a number of years to extend the current contract, but it's not to say that it couldn't to go to RFP at some point. As I mentioned before, one of the things that the airport commission is working on is an RFP process for the separately contracted airport manager services. So something that the city council decided to go to RFP. Actually, the one exception being the current contract that exists that we are presently in 2021 to that contract that we are in today has that 5-year extension option that the current operator can request.
Can request that additional 5.
So that at the very least, I believe the council would have to approve, but beyond 2031, that contract expiring, the council could decide to go to. I think too, another dynamic here, what makes this different in part, maybe many reasons, but right now the FBO actually owns all fuel facilities. And so it's not just a matter of, just we're just gonna get a new FBO and switch somebody out. You have to kind of plan for, how are those fuel facilities gonna be replaced or acquired by the city, those provisions for there. So I do think that this is,
It's very complicated.
this is something that I think we need to begin thinking about, because, Rich is not going to be able to do this forever. I'm sure he will do it as long as I'm sure we want him to, but, this is not a transition that just happens at snap of a finger. So I do think there would be more planning and thought that you'd want to have before really thinking about doing something like that.
Okay.
okay, I'm losing track.
We need to vote on did we vote on it?
The
No,
original-
we need
think
to
so.
vote
Randall
on
asked
the
the
Original
substitute
amended
motion as
motion.
amended.
Okay, so what we have in front of us to now vote on the original amended motion for the FBO agreement. Please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, so that brings us to the end of that piece. What are we doing time-wise? Bids and quotes?
This is Nairo. I move to recommend that council approve the award of a construction contract to Property Solutions Contracting LLC in an amount not to exceed $62,442 for the construction of ADA accessibility improvements at Firefighters Memorial Park.
And Lorman will second that. Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Next is approval of the quote for the Pleasant View Golf Course electric green mowers. Two of them, electric utility carts, two of them, and heavy-duty utility vehicles.
This is Nairo. I move to recommend that common council approve the quotes as recommended by the Pleasant View Golf Course Advisory Committee on January 12th.
Yeah, so Norman will second that. Any questions for anybody? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Next up is selection of the Enterprise Resource Planning or ERP system vendor. And let me get back to my notes on this because I think there was just a little bit more to go through. The fiscal impact on this is $600,502 one-time fee and a $143,090 annual recurring fee. I can read through the summary statement of this, but basically in September of 2025, the city issued a RFP for an enterprise resource system. The system would replace the city's current finance, payroll, and human resource and utility billing software with a single integrated solution. And over the past few months, staff and the city's ERP system selection consultant, Plant Moran, have reviewed the system and evaluated committee recommendation with Tyler Technologies. And of course, in the packet is a summary sheet that shows what appears to be quite a thorough evaluation of the available vendors, giving them scores and weighting. And clearly, Tyler came out with a much higher score, despite being, well, more expensive in the end, somewhere around $52,000. So motion is just that. Do I have a second?
I'm sorry, but
I'm
the
sorry.
motion again was to recommend the
Yep, to
selection
recommend the selection of the ERP system.
and authorize staff and city attorney to negotiate. Okay,
Yep.
I will second that.
All right.
And I have a point of information. Do we need to have a closed session today?
We don't have to.
Is it desirable that we do?
It was just a quick update.
Okay, just wondering. I have some questions. If this is the appropriate time, or should we wait until discussing with council?
I think it's up to you if we want, if we
Okay.
think the council is going to want to be more involved in this.
I think they'll probably have some questions, but maybe we can flesh some of those out now, if I may.
Sure.
Do we have an identity provider? It says connect Tyler applications with your organization's identity provider. And I'm just wondering, do we have one of those? And I'm sorry, I don't have a page number for that reference.
Is that one of the items that's included in the Tyler proposal?
It must be, yeah, that's why it's,
I might be able to shed a little light on that since
Okay.
Drew isn't here. But typically, the city would call it an ID vault, where your central ID credential is loaded, and then the system would basically hit that for all authentication. So Tyler isn't providing us with an ID vault, correct?
Yeah, I don't know the details of the process. I know that our IT manager, Drew Montour, who's on the evaluation committee, also reviewed the technical aspects, including how the single login and sign-in would
Yep.
work, and was comfortable with the process. But I would have to
Process is
defer to
called
him on the
SSO,
details.
And it's
okay.
it's typical in an enterprise environment that a product like Tyler wouldn't necessarily host the city's ID vault. That would be a separate, distinct system. So any resources that the staff would want to gain access to, that ID vault would live on one discrete system. And then all the other systems that use it would essentially exchange what's called a certificate back and forth to it to verify identity. So this way, if a staff member is added or terminated by the city, you go to that single ID vault, you either add them, remove them, and poof, Now they can't get into email, they can't get into this new ERP system and any other, call it, system the city might have.
Okay,
So
thank you.
it's kind of,
And question for Bill, it says, or I'm wondering with this system, will we need to change our account codes or modify the chart of accounts? And will it be possible to streamline streamline uploading our reports, our financial reports into the state's system when you have to do that?
The answer to both of those is yes. We would be adjusting our chart of accounts, and that's one of the things we would like to do with this project regardless. There are some more options for how we would set up our chart of accounts in using different category codes and project accounting codes that should help us streamline our chart of accounts, be able to better summarize for reports. And one of the things that we'd like to build into that structure is improved reporting for both our state report form C, which is our general municipal report, as well as our Public Service Commission annual report.
Okay, thank you. On page 69, it says, I just have to say I'm skeptical about this because it says easily uncover budget savings, identify revenue possibilities, better allocate funds and create sustainable fiscally responsible budgets using AI. And I would just say there is no easily uncovered budget savings. So I'm a skeptic on that, but I get it. This is a proposal. Will all city offices have access to this system? That is like the MOC and fire department and police, or will it all just be central to?
It will be available citywide, any facility, any department. It is a site license, so we as the city would be licensed versus having a set number of user licenses, such as our current system where we can only have so many users in the system at a time. It is also a cloud-based system, so any place there's an internet connection, people will be able to access the system.
Great. On page 72, it mentions GIS planning and there is an asterisk. And I'm wondering, what is the GIS planning and why is there an asterisk? This is 72 of the packet.
I'm looking at their,
It's in the work breakdown structure, initiate and plan.
what was their page?
It's their page 14 of
Yeah, okay.
38. I didn't see an asterisk defined somewhere, so I was just wondering if that's like an
Yeah, it
extra
was-
module or.
Yeah, I am not sure off the top of my head what the asterisk refers to. From the demos, one of the areas that we talked about the GIS was how that would integrate with the utility billing system and how the GIS that utility department is currently using would be able to connect to this to allow logging in and entering and reviewing data in this system and pull up those GIS records. I would have to do some follow-up to find out what the asterisk refers to. But I'm suspecting that is related to trying to interface what the capabilities are of this system with what our local GIS has, and that there's probably different levels of functionality based on what we have for GIS. Since this is not a GIS system, but it can integrate with the city's existing GIS system.
Okay, thank you. On the next page, page 73 of the packet, it refers to a steering committee under the city's people. There's a steering committee and a project manager, and I'm just wondering who's the project manager, who will be on the steering committee, and also what's the timeline?
Yeah, we have not finalized the steering committee yet. I think the working assumption is that the evaluation committee would likely transition into the steering committee. There could be others that are added, but that evaluation committee consisted of myself, HR manager, IT manager, city clerk as our payroll lead, and our utility billing manager. For project manager, I think we would have myself as the overall project manager. And for different modules, we would have a key lead in those areas. So probably Casey Radke and Lori Burns for payroll system, and Sarah Wild, utility billing manager for the utility billing module component of the project.
Okay, thank you.
As far as the timeline, that is something that'll be finalized as we enter into contract negotiations. But the proposal included a 21-month total implementation timeline with a phased implementation, likely starting with financials, moving into utility billing, and then human resources and payroll.
Okay, and then on page 74, it says this schedule assumes the product will be used as is without additional go-live customizations. And I'm wondering, in your discussions with Tyler, did it come up how likely we are to need customizations?
We do not anticipate needing customization in terms of custom programming. The system itself has a lot of options and functionality built into it that is part of our implementation. We'll be deciding which features we're using and how we set up workflows, things like that. But we are not anticipating need custom developing and programming.
Okay, that's good to hear. And then finally, on page 82, the section on change management, how do we address this? The quote is, resistance to change can derail an organization's plan to move forward. And so I'm wondering, again, using their words, what actions will be taken by the organization to help employees transition from the current state to the desired future state?
Yeah, I think that we've already started with that process with what we've been going through over the last year in doing the system evaluation and selection. That rather than just put out an RFP, we went through an extensive process that included interviews with all departments and stakeholders to find out about current processes, educate them about future opportunities, get input, and also inviting people to be involved in the process in the selection and sitting in on demos. There are going to be additional things that we will continue to work on as we get this project kicked off and move forward. We want to make sure that we're communicating with staff, that they see the opportunities, that they have a voice in how the system is going to be used. I would say my assessment, I think there's a lot of support for this project. I think we have a lot of people that know there's other capabilities out there. Either they've worked in other municipalities and they've used this or other similar systems, or they have seen opportunities for electronic payments, e-procurement, things like that. So I think there's a lot of excitement about the project. It's certainly going to be a lot of work, and we're going to have to go through and make sure people are involved, have the communication, have the training. But I think we're off to a good start for that process.
Great, thank you.
Okay. My only comment to this whole project would be is I think what we have to certainly anticipate for, even though it's written into this, that there will be escalations in costs over time, but because this is a cloud-based service, subscription-based, I think we can easily anticipate that we are going to see escalating costs on something like this. Once you're hooked in, we're hooked in. It'll be very expensive to get out of it and transition to another product. I lived through multiple versions of this type of rollout in my professional life, through over 20 years of experience with this type of background. This is the way of the future, these cloud-based services. This is how they operate. I suspect portions of this are being housed in, much larger data facilities outside Tyler's capability, probably like AWS or Microsoft Azure or something like that. So I just think we have to be psychologically prepared to also understand that if there's outages, there are outages, the whole system will be down, things like that. So we're just moving into a brave new world of this. Okay. Did we vote on this yet? No. Okay.
No, you made a motion and I seconded it.
Seconded. All right. So back to a vote. All those in favor for selection of the enterprise resource planning system vendor. As stated earlier, it would be the fiscal impact of $600,502 one-time fee, $143,090 for annual recurring fees with Tyler Technologies. Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have 5 minutes. Bill, how are we gonna? We're not gonna have a closed session, obviously, Brian, Bill, so,
We have Ehlers.
yep, can we get to Ehlers then?
Sure.
All right,
This is Haniro. I move to recommend that we engage with, is it Ehlers or Ehlers?
Ehlers.
Ehlers, as municipal advisor and consider utilizing a competitive method of sale for the city's 2026 and 2027 debt issues.
yeah, so Norman will second that. I only have really one question, Bill. Obviously, the fiscal impact is really, it's the services or the fee structure that we're paying them. I would just wasn't able to calculate, what is kind of that, what is that fee, what is the call it the management fee or load fee on that come out to be?
Yeah, so the amount that they've quoted for these two issues, for the first one, it's about 2/3 of 1% of
Okay.
the par value of the issue. For the second issue, because there's a range as proposed, it ranges from about 2/3 of 1% to just slightly over 1% of the issue.
There, okay.
As part of doing a competitive sale, the hope would be that we, by receiving multiple bids, we would receive a lower overall interest rate, potentially a lower underwriter's discount, which is
Mhm.
part of the issuance cost. We would have the cost for the municipal advisor. So it's hard to say whether, we would end up with a net savings. Obviously, we'll have this cost up there. But I think that especially given the large and complex issues that we're looking at, that there is the potential out there for savings from lower interest rates by going through a competitive process. But until we do the issue, we can't guarantee what that would be.
Okay. That's what I wanted to understand. All right. Any other questions?
No.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And with that, any future agenda items?
I would like to propose that we have a discussion of information on how we use the Wisconsin State Procurement System and possibly other cooperative purchasing opportunities the city might have.
All right. Randall?
Good enough.
All right, with that, everybody, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thanks.